Get ready for the Work Better podcast. I'm Tori McQueen, here to share stories on what's working and what's not in business and in life from humans all over the world. I believe everyone's version of success looks different, but in the end, we should all love our life's work, and in doing so, live a life of complete fulfillment. And if you don't love your work, I'm hoping you'll tune in and uncover some inspiration here to work better. Welcome back, my friends, to the Work Better podcast. Today, we have an incredible guest joining us. She is a highly sought-after time management coach and keynote speaker, top 1% globally ranked podcast host of It's About Time, and founder of the It's About Time Academy. This true Louisiana firecracker is renowned for making time management fun. With her personality-driven HEART method, she helps busy professionals and business owners conquer overwhelm. Drawing on over a decade in political and crisis communications, her rapid response background and problem-solving prowess make her the go-to expert for purpose-driven time management. Everybody, please let's welcome Anna Dearmon Kornick. Well, hello there, Anna. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yes. I haven't had anyone actually talk about specifically time management, so this is going to be super fun because it's such a big thing, especially with people in balance. But before I get into all my crazy questions, let's chat about you. Tell my audience where you started, how you got to where you're at, and what you're up to.
Sure. Great question. Because, I did not exactly get up on, kindergarten career day and say, when I grow up, I want to be a time management coach. Because that's who even knew that could be a thing,
Right.
So I certainly didn't start my career aiming to have a focus on time management, but in a way, I kind of did accidentally. So my very first job right out of college, I grew up in Louisiana. My very first job right out of college was in Washington, D.C. as the scheduler to a United States congressman.
Wow.
You better believe I felt like I was like the coolest kid ever, leaving Louisiana, flying up to D.C., click-clacking around in high heels and my brand new Navy Banana Republic skirt suits around the marble halls of Congress as the scheduler to a United States congressman, a brand new United States congressman. So this guy had just been elected, and I was actually the second person hired in his office. So I got to jump right in and just help do a lot of the early building and setting up systems and processes. But my role was scheduler, which is literally an entire an entire job that is dedicated to planning and managing every single minute of the congressman's day from the time he wakes up in the morning until he ends his day. So
Oh my gosh.
I spent my days like what felt like 10 to 12 hours a day parked in front of an Outlook calendar, managing meeting requests from constituents back in New Orleans, from, lobbyists who wanted to talk to him about legislation, other members of Congress, plus there were committee meeting schedules, and there were vote schedules, and there were speaking invitations and dinner invitations and reception invitations and just all kinds of special events. Not to mention that he was one of the most in-demand congressmen because he was a milestone congressman. I'll say that without giving too much away. And it was bonkers. Like when I tell you, I would literally plan his day, every single minute of it. And, my very first week on the job, I was so proud because I had put together this meticulous schedule where we were able to fit in every single meeting that was requested. And we're talking like, I don't know, like 7 to 10 meetings a day. We were able to fit it all in. And halfway through the morning on the very first day, our chief of staff who runs the office came to me and he said, Anna, we have a problem with the schedule. And I was like, what? What happened? And he said, Anna, he doesn't have any space to go to the bathroom. I was, I literally just did not even think about the fact that my boss was a human being and was going to need to take actual breaks.
I was just going to say, it's a person. Oh, wait.
Yeah. It's not just fitting stuff on a calendar. So But even like once I got past that first hiccup of forgetting about bathroom breaks, I loved it. Like it was every single day was creating order out of total chaos and creating just a puzzle out of so many different variable pieces. I loved it. Was creating order out of chaos. But I told you I'm from Louisiana and I really started to miss home. You know,
Huh?
there's something you've got to know about Louisiana, and it's that our first of all, our food, like, you just can't find Louisiana style food anywhere
No,
else.
it's so unique. I've been one time, and it
Yes.
it definitely is unique.
And there were so many things about living in DC that really made me realize how much I valued the culture of home, and not just the culture in terms of the type of foods we have, like seafood gumbo and jambalaya and crawfish etouffee and shrimp creole and all that good king cake and boiled crawfish, all that. But I really started to miss my family. I was a brand new young professional, and it's in those early years of our 20s that I think we really start to see our values take shape. We're coming into who we are as people, and we start to realize what really matters to us. So I decided that I was tired of having to stalk cheap flights on Southwest whenever I wanted to go home to see my family. I
Yeah.
wanted to be able to run down the road and share a biscuit and jelly with my grandmother whenever I
Yeah.
wanted to. So I moved home. I left DC, left that life to move back to Louisiana, where I kicked off a 10-year career in the 24/7 world of crisis communications and government affairs.
Okay, wait. Okay. Well, okay. So you stayed in politics when you moved back, but okay, so
Basically,
give us a time frame. How long were you in DC? And then from the moment you were like, "I wanna move back," like, what was that time frame? Like, how long did that actually take you to, like, finally say, "I'm moving back," and find a job and do all that?
brace yourself. I was in DC for 6 months
Okay.
before I realized I was ready to move back. And I
Okay.
moved back almost immediately after making that decision because I don't wait around. I don't hem and haw.
Yeah, no. Was it hard for you? You were like, "Eh, not for me, ready to
I was like,
move back home."
Yeah, I'm ready to go." And I fortunately had an opportunity to move straight into a role back in Louisiana in state government where literally every single day was some kind of a disaster. Like, when I tell you the things that
Welcome to
I
politics.
yeah, and I mean, I spent part of that time in specific political roles, and then part of that time working as a crisis communications account executive for a PR firm in New Orleans. And between the government positions and that crisis communications role, I mean, really, it was all crisis to when it comes down to it. But it was just a normal day at the office for me. Like, oh, we have an earthquake today. Oh, there's an oil spill. Oh, there's a, hurricane coming. Oh, there's a tornado. I've done all of it. Drought
Oh,
and floods. Um, well, let's see. I've already said oil spills, plant explosions, natural
what
gas disasters, like all like
what
you name it.
managing yeah, and managing all that chaos, what did that look like in, like, a normal job? What was your role in that? When you say
Yeah.
managing that, what did that look like?
Yeah. So I was always in a communications role. So, like, you think of any of the like disasters that have made it on TV. There's always someone who is communicating what is happening to the media. There's somebody who has to communicate, okay, yes, we have, um, let's see, for an example, there is a flood in a part of the state that impacts a major oil refinery that produces oil for X percent of the country. And so that's making sure that the people who live in the community around it understand that it's being taken care of, that the media knows that this isn't going to blow up, that like the other areas of government that we need to call upon for
Oh
help
my
during a
god.
flood. It's just like it's thinking through how do we communicate every single aspect of this. But it's not just disasters, it's reputational issues too. I Some of the things that I worked through were I supported universities that were on the brink of financial collapse, writing speeches and letters from their university presidents. God, there was a nonprofit embezzlement scheme that I worked on. And I think the
That's
weirdest,
PR also.
wait, what?
Is it a PR
Oh,
also?
it is. It's PR. Crisis management is kind of like it's like a division of PR, you could say. Like if there's public relations, you've got crisis management as a division of it. The weirdest thing that I ever worked on was a nude swimming scandal at a restaurant.
Wow. I don't
Those
even know. Like, when you paint that title, I'm trying to envision, like, what that crisis
like
is.
yeah, those words just should don't go together.
Yeah. Ugh. Honestly, like, if I were to tell my kids, like, what to go to college for, if I were to encourage them to go to college, it would seriously be communication probably, because
Yeah.
it is such an important piece of every single business, and I think that is huge in any relationship and any,
Mm.
reputation and any, managing that chaos. And it's funny because when I hear you talk about these things, it laughs because I work with some of my realtors on the team, and realtors are constantly time management, like chaos, but it's not just the chaos, it's like managing expectations and then like preemptive, like assumptions and stuff.
Mhm.
So it's very, very interesting. It's a great skill to have. So, okay, so you did that. Now, okay, now what's the time frame on that? And where are you now? Like,
So
what do you
how did I get from communications to time management again, right? No, I hear you. So the thing is that I loved working in crisis communications, and I always wanted to be that high-powered firecracker of a professional who was walking down hallways with purpose, holding my phone and having, conversations and stepping out of dinners to take calls. But the thing is that when that actually started happening, when I really did
Oh, the
have to be that
worst.
person who was missing family dinners and missing friends' baby showers and missing the very festivals that I moved back to Louisiana to
Yep,
enjoy,
yep.
my breaking point, and I'm so ashamed to say this, but the thing is that when we experience things like this, it gives us an opportunity to understand who we are and the direction that we can move in going forward. I was given essentially an ultimatum from one of my employers that
Oh,
was, you must attend this weekend event, or you will no longer be employed by us. And it coincided with my stepdad's 70th surprise birthday party.
yeah.
I had to make a choice, and I did not attend his party.
Ugh,
How do you think I feel about that all these years later? I can't
so
I
hard.
I know, like, I hear that and I'm like, I say now I'm disappointed in myself, and how could you have done that? But me in that moment just saw, like, I will lose my job if I do not follow through with this weekend event. If I do not do this, I will lose my job. And it's so unfortunate for anyone to ever be put in that situation. Like, I look back on Anna then, and I feel bad for the pressure that I was under and for the decision that I was forced to make and now have to live with. And I I got to a point where this is ridiculous.
Ugh,
I am I am not living I am not living life. I am working. That is all that I am doing. I am completely consumed with being there for my clients and following through with the requests from the place that I work at that time. And I just knew that there had to be more to life and that this wasn't the life that I wanted to live. Like, yes, this is what I thought I wanted. This is what I had always envisioned for
yeah.
myself, being in that role. And I was there. I was at the director level. I was doing it. Like, by all accounts, on paper, I was rocking it. But on the inside, I was a mess. Like, my
Yeah.
health was completely deteriorating because I wasn't eating well. I wasn't getting enough rest. my relationships obviously weren't in a great place because I was missing so many events and just felt so much guilt. And I just found myself in this place of burnout. And I was like, there's more to life than this. Like, when you're in crisis management, you never expect that you are going to be the crisis that needs to be
Right.
managed. But that's essentially what happened. And so I walked away. I walked away and I just, I'll never forget it. I went to my boss for some type of a, review meeting that day. And I pitched them becoming a client of mine. Like, why don't I'm planning to open a freelance. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I couldn't do this anymore. I was like, I would
Right.
love to take you on as a client. Or I would be happy to provide my 2 weeks notice. And they were like, well, we're happy to accept your 2 weeks notice. I'm like, all right,
All right.
cool.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's do this. I wish you the best. And I had never been more proud
Yeah.
of myself than I was in that moment because I felt like for once I was taking care of myself. And I remember I walked out of the meeting and went straight to this like boutique around the corner and I bought this bracelet that was like a sculptural piece that looked like a pelican. And it just felt so strong and um it just felt like it invoked confidence in this way that I can't really explain. But that's always been like an emblem of, all right, let's spread your wings. Let's figure this out and let's do this. And that's what the next couple years were like, was a lot of figuring this out. What is it that I want to do? What can I do? How do I translate this? Do I want to go back to politics? Do I want to do PR? Do I want to do freelance social media? Like, what is happening here?
Oh,
And it all started to come into place whenever I opened my spam folder one day in my
oh
Gmail.
gosh. Okay. I for sure want to hear about the spam folder,
Right.
but I want to unpack a little bit about what you
Yeah,
just said because this is so huge. And I did have a similar experience in my corporate life before I had kids. And do you have any kids now?
I
Or
do. I have 2
okay.
kids.
Okay. And did you at the time?
I didn't. I
Okay.
don't know how I could have possibly.
Okay. Well, and it's nice that you caught that. And, it saddens me a little bit that you're like, like I feel ashamed that I missed this. And I think already, especially as women, there is a lot of pressure with balance and with, do a lot, but be there for your family, but not too much or only when
Right.
I say. And once you hit a certain wall, it's like you have to make that ultimatum. And also, when somebody gives you an ultimatum, that alone right there, like, puts up this bitter, like, feeling of resentment that I think doesn't get talked about. And I do think there are ways, because I battle this too sometimes, like, with family, like, when your family grows and your family expands and, you live in the same state you were born in or with family, and so do I. And it's one of those things where your family just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and you cannot physically go to every birthday party. Like, it's also one of those things where it's like, okay, there's boundaries involved that you have to place with home life, but also work life and clients. And that alone, like, is huge. Huge, 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 huge. So I think it's awesome that you found that before you started having children too, because it would have came to you anyways, I think.
Oh, yeah, and I'll tell you, when I offered that opportunity,
The
that
opportunity.
to that last
Uh-huh.
employer to either, "Okay, let me take you on as a client." I was engaged at that point, and I
Uh-huh.
had actually accepted that role because I anticipated it being a little bit more low key than my past roles, and it turned out to be even more toxic,
Right.
and it was full of surprises and just weirdness at every turn. And what was so appealing to me about that role was that, oh, this is great. I'll be able to work in a communications role with minor crisis management and be able to come home to my future kids. And when it became evident that that was not the case, I felt like I had been completely bait and switched. I was like,
Yeah.
this is not going to work because I was starting to form those priorities, even though I didn't have kids yet. I wasn't even, married yet. We weren't even my children were a twinkle in someone's eye. Whatever it is that they say. But I just knew that that's not the foundation that I wanted to have in place.
And it's great that you listen to yourself and trust yourself. Did it mess with you at all after you left? Like with
My
your
gosh.
with your ego or with your confidence at all? Were you like, "Oh man, did I do the right thing?" Or I know that you said you went out and celebrated because it was a big decision, and I'm sure it was quite a huge relief. But did it kind of mess with you a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, hello, Enneagram 3 here, who can have a tendency to place or to equate my self-worth with my identity. It's something that so many of us struggle with, especially those who are in business, those of us who are ambitious, those of us who have goals like that. And not having a role or a specific job to tie myself to, I kind of felt like I floundered. Like that's how I described those years after leaving that last full-time role, was that, well, I floundered for a few years. I experimented. I did a lot of trial and error trying to figure it out. And the process of getting to where I am now required a lot of internal work and
Yeah.
letting go of expectations that I felt that
Yeah.
others had placed upon me. And it felt like a huge weight that was lifted.
Oh, yes, that's so good because it does take sometimes, even though you feel like, okay, especially for Enneagrams 3, that you're taking a step backwards,
Mhm.
right? Or like, hey, I don't have a title. So, like, this mean, your self worth kind of, you
Yeah.
like, it flounders a little bit when really you do sometimes have to take time on yourself to even figure out what you want or what you
Right.
want, like, or where you want to go
Right.
before you can go.
And
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it's counterintuitive or it's even bad advice, because so many people will say, don't leave your day job until you have a plan. Don't don't quit until you know what you're gonna do next. And I'm like, well, I mean, I see that on one hand, but if I had waited until I had a plan, I would not be doing what I'm doing right now. Like, I needed flounder. I needed to explore and experiment and figure it.
Yes, and some people cannonball in the water and some people dip a toe in and go in slow. So I
You
think
gotta do what's best for you. You gotta know yourself and do what's best for you.
yes, and to know yourself, you kinda have to take time with yourself. But
Yeah.
before we dive into your spam inbox that you're about to get to, how old were you when you left that? Just to give perspective to some people that are, like, feeling like that
Sure.
they
Yeah.
were maybe, like, going through the same thing and think it's too late to
Oh
leave
gosh,
a
it's
career.
it's never too late. So, okay, I am not a math person, I'm not a numbers person. Let's see. I am 38 right now.
Okay.
I walked away from that last full-time role in 2016 or 2017. 2017.
'Kay.
So,
Well, I don't know
whatever,
the math.
I'll let everyone else do the math. It is now 2024. So 11, was that really 11 years ago?
Or
No,
12.
no way.
So you were probably in your late 20s.
That's wild. Yeah, I guess I was in my late 20s. That's
Okay,
insane.
good to know.
Cool.
So now you're
I
spam
feel because I feel like I just started my business like 3 years ago, but I guess it was longer
time
ago than that.
flies. Time flies, especially when you have children. It's like
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a 5-year-old now, and I started my business after I stepped into becoming a time management coach after she was born. So I've been doing that for 5 years. But, you mentioned knowing yourself, okay? And how knowing yourself is so important. One day I was randomly checking my spam folder and happened to come across an email about a Myers-Briggs training workshop
uh,
in New Orleans. That there was this workshop coming up. It was this weekend long opportunity to become a credentialed Myers-Briggs practitioner. And I'm like, is this real? And it was. And so I pulled it out of my spam, signed up, went, and became a certified Myers-Briggs practitioner. So if you're not familiar with Myers-Briggs, it's the one that's like the 4 letters, like ENTJ or ISTP.
mhm.
And at that, training weekend, I walked away with the ability to now give the Myers-Briggs, and I walked away learning that there's this thing called coaching, and you can help people like do strategic planning for their lives
Uh-huh.
and like set goals and reach and like encourage them and be accountability. And I was like, that I can do. And that was like my eye-opening moment of, okay, this is a path to consider. And a few months later, I was working on my certified coach certification. Within 8 weeks, I became a certified executive leadership coach and have been serving others with accountability and powerful questions ever since.
Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, so what are you? What's your Myers-Briggs?
I am an ENTJ.
I'll have to look up what mine is because
Yeah,
I definitely I wanna look it up now. I might have to look it up real quick to share it with you, but
totally should.
so what you do now, do you use Myers-Briggs now to
I
help people with their time management?
I do. It is an integral part of the work that I do with people because what I have learned, and especially what I figured out during my floundering phase, well,
Mhm.
because I dove into every kind of professional development, time management, goal setting, vision casting, career type book that I could get my hands on. And some stuff made a lot of sense. And a lot of stuff really didn't. And some time management and productivity advice really just ticked me off because it felt off. Okay. And I started to notice in my friends, in women especially that I knew, that so many people were struggling with time management. They were struggling with overwhelm and they were frustrated because they felt like they had tried everything and it didn't work for them. And so what I began to realize is that time management, especially what's written in most time management books, especially books by men, can't be copied and pasted onto everyone's lives and be expected to work.
Right. I
And
totally agree.
yeah, and I mean, I think about some advice out there about how the quote unquote best way to focus and make progress on your work is to shut out all distractions for 4 hours a day and put your phone on airplane mode and focus on one thing. Um, I appreciate that. I appreciate that that works for some people, but I will not be putting my phone on airplane mode when I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old at daycare, you know? Like,
They
don't
don't have that yeah, there's so many books out there, because again, like you, I'm looking at your book collection in the back there, and I have mine over here on the wall, and I'm like, there's so many books out there that are written from a totally different perspective, and I just think that makes it hard for the female entrepreneur or anybody to actually ga gain true perspective, or I guess you're getting perspective, but you're not getting proper leadership or coaching,
right.
right?
It's not customized. And
No.
the thing that I've especially learned by diving into the Myers-Briggs is that there are two really different ways that we approach information. Some people will read a time management book and they will have this desire to implement it step by step exactly as it's written. That's what feels like the right thing to do to them. Then you have a type of person who will read a time management book and they're able to see, oh, this could work for me. This might work for me if I change it a little bit. So we've got
Oh,
a very
yeah.
black and white type of linear thinking. And then on the other side, we've got this more like abstract, how can I mold this to me? The majority of people are the step by step linear thinkers. And so when you have a majority of people who tend to think, well, first I have to do this, and then I must do this, and then I have to do this, when they try those things and they don't work, they think there's something wrong with them. But the reality is that we have to take these different recommendations, understand our unique personality preferences, and mold the strategies to what
I
works for
love
us.
that.
Because it's different for everyone. So it's almost like as a time management coach, I get to be a matchmaker between the individual and what makes them unique
Yeah.
And this huge collection of strategies and methods that are out there, I get to sort through that and figure out what's going to work best for the individual.
That's so good because like I share with a lot of friends of mine, we always, it's easy to get squirrely on different things, but then at the same time, it's hard to stay focused on what you think will work, and then you have to discern like when to quit certain things and when to keep trying other
Yeah.
things. And I think a lot of it's not based on your own personalities or your
Mhm.
character traits. It's all very much a trial and error, right?
Yeah.
And I think that makes it hard because then you have to sort through and figure out, "Oh, man, like, what would work for me?" And then you have to turn your head when it's working for someone else that is not the same personality as you, and you want to try it, but and you have this set expectation that it's gonna work, when in reality, they have a totally different set of characteristics and circumstances and personalities, so it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant.
One of the things that especially drives me crazy is when you encounter someone who has found a system that works for them, and then they go around and tell everybody else, "You have to do it this way," or
Oh,
you
yeah.
should do it this way." It's like we see this
Or
a
it's
lot
the
of
only way
times.
to win. The only way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see this in a lot of workplaces where a manager will tell one of their, like, employees, "You should be managing your priorities like this," or "You should do your to-do list like this." But that just isn't how that's not how people work. So,
Yeah. Which one are you again? The
I am an ENTJ. So that's extroversion,
Okay.
intuition, so more like abstract thinking, big picture thinking. I hate small details. Like they ugh, hate small details. Thinking. So I tend to make decisions that are more logic based. And then judging, which does not mean judgmental. It just means that I have a preference for closure and completion rather than keeping things
Right?
open ended.
Which is nice. Oh, that is
I
so
mean,
interesting. I think I'm an ENTP,
I
like
love ENTP.
SEP or one of those, but I'd
Yeah.
have to, like, re-look at my stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's one of those.
Yes. Yes. Love it. ENTPs are idea factories.
Oh,
Um,
probably me. Yeah.
yeah, serious idea factories, like can just go on and on with ideas forever.
That is probably totally me. And then ESTP is what is that one? The
That one
different
I can't remember. I don't see the thing is that I don't think I've worked with quite as many ESTPs as I have ENTPs. So let's see, ESTPs are bold and sociable and rational
and that might be me too.
and
But
observant. They are called the entrepreneur. So that
oh, that might
would make a ton of difference. Ah, love it.
I'm one of those.
It's
Anyways,
a lot of fun to dive into.
yes, I'll have to do more digging into that. But I love that you don't just do time management in general. You actually take people's specific personalities and help them get through it. Hey there, friends. Are you in business and wanting to get more clients over the next 6 weeks? Well, I've got something just for you, the 5831 Method Session and Guide. It's all about simplifying your strategy to attract and close those dream clients. No more guesswork. Think of this as a little one-on-one session with me to figure out the exact strategies to gain those next clients to close. When you jump on board, you'll snag a downloadable guide and step-by-step video session with yours truly, so we can tailor this method to fit your unique business and goals. And imagine this, in just under an hour session, you'll have a custom roadmap ready to roll out over the next 6 weeks. So what are you waiting for? No matter what business you're in, head on over to toriamcqueen.com/method. That's toriamcqueen.com/method, or find the link in the show notes to get more clients today. So what does your day-to-day look like now? And what are the 3 most common things that you help people, like, with, or the biggest problems that
Yeah.
you help solve?
Awesome. Okay. Love that. Love that. So first thing I'd say day to day, one technique that I love to use is a cyclical schedule. So I have a week that's dedicated to coaching. I have a coaching week every other week where I am all in doing almost back to back 1 hour coaching calls with my client. Um, and then I have a content week. So coaching, content, and it cycles through. So coaching weeks, I'm all in on coaching. It really helps me have that coaching mindset.
Yeah.
Content week, I am more focused on creating content for my podcast or working on programs or content for the It's
Yeah.
About Time Academy. So I'd say day to day typically looks like taking the girls to school and then diving into either coaching calls or something podcast related. I aim to take a break for lunch every day. I'm not big on working at my desk. I need to get up and move and sit by some windows. And then, back to work in the afternoon. And, then, I call it a day, usually around 4:35. Fridays are one of my favorite days of the week because I work from the gym at in our community. We have a cafe in our gym, so I'll go and I'll do my Finance Friday routine and have a coffee and hang out with a friend and go to yoga and then spend the afternoon doing any type of catch-up work for the week, but I usually
Huh?
call it at, like, 3:30 on Fridays.
Oh,
And
that's fun.
that because I'm so focused in Monday through Thursday. And by the way, I do no meetings on Mondays. Mondays are
Me
just
neither.
for marketing, for podcast scripts, for making sure I'm all set for the week. I end Mondays early and I go work out and I take my girls to
Mhm.
ballet and tap class, so that's a big part of my week. And so I go hard on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays so that I can have
That
those
is so
Fridays.
similar to me. Yep, that is similar.
Yeah. And then I'd say that with my clients. So the It's About Time Academy is the way to work with me. There are three different ways to work with me within the academy. And I'd say that most commonly, my VIP client come to me because they want to level up in some way. They're feeling overwhelmed and they want to move up in their career, they're professional, they want to get promoted, but they're barely able to manage what's on their plate right now. Or they might own a business and they want to scale, they want to grow their business, but they're barely able to handle the client load that they have now. And what is so awesome about the way that I approach time management with these clients is that we're not just working on what happens in the confines of a workday. We're not just doing work time management because sometimes we'll dig into it and we'll find out that things at work aren't going well because you're not getting enough sleep at night. And you're not getting enough sleep at night
Mhm.
because your kids don't have a solid bedtime routine and because you're starting dinner too late, because you
Uh-huh.
don't like to cook dinner, because you don't have a reserve of recipes and you don't do meal planning and you're not doing a
Oh,
week. So it's all
oh,
connected. And
yeah.
so it's like you can't just treat one problem and expect that to be enough. We have to take a holistic view of, okay, what's going on in your whole life? Like, what are the personal projects that you're working on? Most of the time, people don't even know because they're all living in their heads. Like, all of the projects are just living in their heads. And what are the professional or the work projects that you're working on? Like, if you're a realtor, how many different buyers and sellers do you have right now? What are the different marketing channels you're working on? Because if you don't have that stuff captured, like, it's just swirling around in your head and getting it out on paper and really seeing, "Oh, wow, these are all of the different things that I'm working on right now," can be mind-blowing for people. But
Ah,
you can't truly prioritize until you realize what you're doing, what you're even working on.
ah, yes. I could say so much on that, but I'll let you keep going because I definitely think when you say, like, it all just swarms in your head, like, I can
Yeah.
totally relate, especially if you own multiple businesses or you're in
Mhm.
several different projects and you have multiple children and you have a
Yeah.
husband and you have a lot of friends and social life, and it's a lot. I have a coach too, and, like, not time management coach, but a coach, and we always call it, like, unpacking the purses. Like, you have to
Mm.
unpack your purse and dump it out.
Oh,
And
that's fun.
literally, like, sort what you need for this trip. Like,
Yeah.
for the next, like, 90 days, what actually do you need to take in this purse?
Mhm.
Because it's getting heavy, and it's not gonna be you realistically can only fit so much.
It's true, it's true. A lot of times we tend to equate overwhelm with working a lot of hours. and we think I'm overwhelmed because I'm working so much. But the truth is that overwhelm is actually a result of the variety of things that you're working on. Because when you are putting your energy into a lot of different projects, you're only able to move forward like an
I
inch in this
know.
direction, an inch in this direction. A little bit of progress is made over here. And so you don't see any big result. So then you get discouraged and then you start working more hours in order to see progress. And
But you're
it
still
just
interesting in everyone.
right. But so it just becomes this cycle. And it's hard because we really want to do everything. We do. We want to imagine that we are these like limitless, capacity humans, which is not true because remember, even my congressman needed bathroom breaks. Um, we have to pull back on things. Sometimes we have to put things on pause. We have to reschedule things and reset our expectations in order to make real progress on other things. And that's one of the very first things that I do with my clients is, okay, let's record everything that you're working on right now. Let's rank it based on what's most important and what's going to be what's closest to completion. Because, like, what can we knock out? What can we get off your plate? And then we reschedule and we just shut it down. We eliminate it. We just get rid of it.
Oh, so you decide what to do with it. Now, this is so interesting because based on the personalities, do you feel that certain personalities have a capacity for so much and then others have way more capacity? Or does everybody have a set limit? Like, hey, working on 2 personal things and 3 work things or is too much? Or do you recognize patterns like that?
In terms of patterns, I find that it's typically our people with a P personality tends to have way more projects than someone with a J personality because someone with a P that it's called perceiving, they love to start new things. They love the energy of starting new things. And don't get me wrong, I do too. Like I'm a J, I love a new project, but J's are really concerned with completing things. So they're more likely to start something and finish it. So J's typically have way more projects. But in terms of capacity, that has more to do with lived experience and life experience. I may be an ENTJ, but as a result of the way that I was stretched as a crisis communications professional, I can handle a lot. I can take on a lot because I have years of practice in moving back and forth between a lot of different projects. And so in any given day, I may successfully have 3 podcast interviews and 2 discovery calls and 2 coaching calls and get through the day and it feels fine. It feels normal. I do find that the extroversion versus introversion piece though is really important when it comes to scheduling our days because someone with a preference for extroversion can have the day that I just described. Podcast interview, talk to this person, call, and they'll get to the end of their day and they'll be like, that was a great day. That was amazing. I had so much fun. But someone with a preference for introversion, that I is going to want to like hide for 3
They
days
probably
after.
wouldn't have a podcast.
No, there are tons of introverts with podcasts because they're very well spoken in their podcast because of the intentionality and the reflection and the internal work that they bring to their podcast. They're not just getting on there and talking most of the time. But it's interesting to see the play with different personality types and how they have to manage their energy and like what a good day means for me versus what a good day looks like for someone who is maybe more introverted.
And then again, it goes back to those personality types and like what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Okay. I have so many more questions, but
Okay.
it's fun, right? Because it's so tailored and unique that I think, everybody should probably have someone on their side. And do you think that people who have certain personality traits need to have, with time management, certain types of people on their team that complement also? Because I know many profiles that I've done too, like obviously for my personality, admin work is a nightmare. Like detail work for like no, like I have my girls for that. Like they are amazing and they have my back and we complement each other for that. But do you think that people run into that in the time management world? Like they just don't fit the roles that they need to have done. And so they're not getting things done because they don't have certain people in place.
So that's a really interesting path to go down. So the Myers-Briggs Foundation or whatever it's called, sorry, I can't remember. The Myers-Briggs people
No need to.
actually do not recommend using the Myers-Briggs in hiring. And I know of a lot of online business owners, entrepreneurs who have shared about job postings and they will ask their potential new hires to take the Myers-Briggs and to provide their info. But the thing is that Myers-Briggs, like that, this assessment believes that we as humans, like we're capable of learning and flexing and becoming skilled in any number of things. We have a preference for what we enjoy doing, but if I am, if I am an ENTJ, that should not disqualify me from being a librarian, just
I agree.
because
Yes.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I do find that there are certain matches when it comes to how personality types can work well together. And so there have been some of my clients in the past who said, well, I'm a this, 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 this. So I want my assistant to be a this, 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 this. And I was like, okay, if that's the direction that you want to go for it. And then they make that hire, that specific personality hire, and it wasn't the fit they were
And it
hoping it
sets
would be.
expectations too, like sets proper expectations, I would think.
Yeah, and like they just found that because the other person was the kind of opposite personality, they expected, you would think that they would, what is it like, compliment you or kind of counteract your pitfalls. But what ended up happening is that there was a total communication breakdown
Oh, I believe it.
because the boss would communicate something to the assistant and the assistant would think about it in a completely different way. And so they were just on total wavelengths. And so, I think that it's just really important to be super clear on communication and
Yeah, there we go.
not to base those decisions just on personality, but to, again, know yourself and think, okay, what type of people do I really get along with? And how can I, communicate the best that I can in a job interview as I'm building a team to try and build a team of people based on the culture that I want to have rather than fit different personality molds.
Oh, yeah. I would have to agree with that. I think that it sounds like if you do it just on personality, you're just fitting people in these boxes. When really it's like, everyone's capable. It's just let it go and it takes out the human, right? Yeah. Okay. So now you've been running your business 5 years.
Guess so.
Or more.
Yeah.
And so how would they know they need your help?
Yeah. I would say that if you feel
what are some signs that if you're talking to them right now, what should they look for? And
it's really easy. Do you feel overwhelmed?
okay.
That's it. That is the problem that I solve. If you feel overwhelmed, we get to the bottom of it. We figure out
management issue.
We figure out what is causing the overwhelm. We pick it apart. We come up with a plan and we tackle it piece by piece. And everyone, it's remarkable. I can have a director of advocacy for a nonprofit come to me because she's feeling overwhelmed, and a calligrapher running a business come to me because she's feeling overwhelmed. And we're able to follow similar initial steps. What's on your plate right now? What is it that you have said yes to? But where we start is by asking the question, where do you want to go? How do you want to feel? Because the biggest misconception that people make about time management and navigating overwhelm is that good time management starts on the pages of your planner. People think, okay, Anna, help me with time management. Let me show you my calendar. Or Anna, what calendar should what's the best planner? What calendar, what app should I have? Good time management starts with getting crystal clear about what matters most to you. It starts with your vision and it starts with being very clear on your values. And until you get clear on your vision for the future, where you want to go, what you want your life to look like, and how you want to spend your time, you can't even begin
Oh,
to
that's so
effectively
good.
move things around on a calendar. And
Yeah.
so we start with vision. We unpack the purses. We start with vision. We unload all of the current moving projects. We make a plan. We make sure that we have systems and processes that are set up for success. And then we use the HEART method, which is my proprietary framework of time management. It stands for habits, energy, attention, recharge, and time. We use that almost like a toolbox to pull from in creating sustainable habits and understanding your energy pattern, in helping you focus your attention, make sure that you're getting rest, recreation, and building quality relationships. And time management almost becomes like the cherry on the sundae, the icing on the cake, because we're able to take that vision. And now we're so much more informed to make intentional decisions about how do we build an ideal week? What questions do we ask ourselves in a weekly planning session in order to make sure that we are ready to win our week before it starts?
Ugh.
So just it's just amazing to see the transformation in so many different types of people who think I'm hopeless. There's nothing that I've tried everything. And now, like, you wouldn't believe the things that they're able to accomplish because we focused on going from overwhelmed to organized and then organized to optimized. Most people want to skip that middle part. They want to go straight from I'm overwhelmed to show me the time hacks, show me the calendar apps and the
Uh,
habit trackers. But when you miss that foundational piece of having routines in place and having a decent email and to-do list system, if you skip that, all this other stuff just falls apart.
Yep. Totally. Totally. So, and your ideal clients, who do you work with now? And where do you
Yeah.
see yourself going in the next few years?
I love working with ambitious women. I love specifically working with women because the challenges that we have when it comes to time management are so different, and they're not addressed. They're not spoken to enough in the time management and productivity materials out there. I saw a post on Instagram yesterday. It was actually posted by Money with Katie, and she had like 52, it was a picture of 52 productivity and time management books that you should read in 2024 that someone else had posted. And she went through and she realized that of those 52 books, only 4 of them were written by women.
Girl,
It's
yeah,
coming.
you're right.
It's and so I even messaged her. I was like, "Well, hey, let me send you a copy of my book." But it just the materials and the perspectives for women just aren't out there, and we are carrying so much more. We have the emotional and mental invisible mental load many times of even if we're not mothers, of still having the traditional gender stereotypes, traditional gender roles of maintaining all of that invisible labor in the home. Who's in charge of the Christmas gifts? Who's in charge of picking the kids up and taking them to school most of the time? Who's in charge of making sure that there's a Dr. Seuss outfit for Dr. Seuss's birthday tomorrow? For school dress up. Like me, by the way, I had to do a Party City order today to make sure that we had that ready. And it's like there's so many things. We're trying to lead meetings in boardrooms at the same time that summer camp registration opens up.
Oh, yes. And that honestly, like that is a whole nother can in itself because I've spoken to so many different entrepreneurs and they're like, some people are like, oh, you need an assistant or a nanny. That nanny will schedule this, do that, do that, do that. But when one of your core values is relationships and like family, sure, that's not an easy decision. Like,
And
that
I'm all about delegating. Like, that's typically a big mental block that a lot of my clients
uh
have to work through is delegating because they feel like they should be doing it. But even if you are ready to delegate, we don't all have the same amount of resources to put toward hiring someone to help inside the home.
with every
And
single thing, yeah.
yeah,
Because
I
it's a
love,
lot, yeah.
I mean, have you seen how much groceries are? I mean, we're all doing our best, but like,
So
there's just so much that, and there's so much nuance to holding your boundaries as a female compared to men. Just the way that we have to approach that has to be so much different because of societal expectations. So there's a huge piece. There's the communication and managing conflict piece. All of that ties into the way that we manage our time. So when it comes to who I love to work with, I love to work with women who are feeling overwhelmed but can't help but believe that there's a better way, because there is a better way. I have lived the burnout.
a
I
way
have
to work better, for sure.
Yes, there is a way to work better. There is. There is, but sometimes they just need help figuring out what that
Mhm.
is. And I'll tell you what, I was gonna say this earlier when we were talking about trial and error. In order to be successful at trial and error, you have to be okay with error. And so
Yes.
often, our perfectionist tendencies will hold us back because we would rather do nothing than potentially make a mistake by trying something. And that's another
Yes.
huge block that I have to work through, or that I often work through with my clients, is like, it's okay if it doesn't work. We just have to, let's try it. Let's see what happens. How can we reflect on the success of this technique?
Well, and it's nice to have you as somebody who can hold people accountable also.
Yes. Yes.
Do
And
you
that's
do
a
those, like, VIP sessions, or is it group coaching? Well, I would assume it's one-on-one, right? And is it usually, like, 6 weeks, or does it just depend?
yeah. Okay. So great. Awesome question. I love that. So I do work with clients one on one, but I also really value the group coaching environment just
Yeah.
because so much more real world learning can take place whenever you're hearing someone else work through a situation or talk through one of their systems and processes. So my It's About Time Academy VIPs at the highest level of support that I offer, we work together for at least 6 months. That's where we start,
Yeah.
because true transformation takes time. And some coaches will tell you that it takes a year. You have to sign on to work with me for a year in order to
Yes.
make progress. But I really believe that 6 months is a sweet spot, because we spend that first 4 really locking in, moving from overwhelmed to organized. And then those last 2 months, we are primed and ready to fly, to really optimize and turn up the dial and bring that time management, that confidence, that clarity to a level that they just didn't even expect that they could experience. But not everyone needs that one on one support. And so I also work with a group called the It's About Time Academy All Stars. And so with my All Stars, we meet every other week in a group setting. They are all my accountability partners. I make sure that they are following through with what they say that they will do. They reach out to me. I had someone reach out to me just this afternoon and say, I'm in a sticky situation at work. Can you help talk me through this? And we just messaged back and forth, and right before she walked into a meeting. And I love that I can do that. Like, I am a part of their day. But the thing is that my goal is not for them to become dependent on me. I am here to hold on to them until we take off the training wheel. You know, I am there to help them find the right strategies and really get the habits embedded so they don't have to work with me forever, so that they can be equipped to take what they've learned and update their ideal week whenever their kids start sleeping later, or so that they can update their weekly planning session whenever they get a new job, that they know how they can adapt the tools that they have started using as life changes, because that's what happened. Life changes. We can't imagine that I'm not gonna create, like, here's your time management plan. It's gonna work for you forever.
No.
Oh,
Mine, like, every, like, 60 days, I swear.
and that is normal, and we have to accept that as our lives change, which is constant, the way that we manage our time has to change with it. And that's the reason why so many people are struggling and stuck, because they're still managing their time the same way they did in college or the same way they did in their first job.
Oh, that's so good. And it's so on point because I think when people think time management, they're not thinking about it this way.
Right.
Like you said, you're like, you can't just put a Band-Aid on it and solve that. You have to get to the deep-rooted issues of like the overwhelm. I love it. And I could talk to you forever about all this, but let's tell everybody how they can find you. Where can they find you if they need to connect? So that way we make it easy on them.
Sure. So I would be so thrilled if you tuned in to my podcast. It's about time. I have new episodes going live every single Monday, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you heard me talk about overwhelm in this episode and you're like, yes, Anna, I am overwhelmed, definitely check out episode, I think 215, because it is all about all things overwhelm and being overcommitted and how to get out of it. So check out episode 215 for a really good episode on overwhelm.
Oh, that's so awesome. And then how can they reach you to work with you?
Yes, I'd say that the best way to reach out with me to work with me is to head over to my website, annadkornick.com. Check out my, the work with me services page, see if there's something there that feels like a good fit, book a call and let's talk. I love it. I love talking time management and helping people kind of have that light bulb moment of like, oh, wow, this could work for me.
That's so awesome. Well, thanks for chatting with me today. And we'll definitely add your stuff in the show notes. And I just appreciate everything that you have to offer everybody. I think we need more of it. And I can't wait to hear when you get your book.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's my pleasure. It's been so much fun chatting with you.
Well, my friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Work Better podcast. I hope you've wrapped up your golden nugget and take it with you on your journey to finish out the week. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, leave a review, or reach out to me personally if you have any special requests for guests or questions you'd like me to share on the show. In the meantime, I'll be over here rooting for you. Until next time.